My own mother said something at dinner that erased my name in front of everyone. "You don't deserve that name anymore." She didn't whisper it. She didn't say it privately. She said it out loud. My stepfather laughed. My aunt looked down, and no one stopped her. For a second, I thought it was a joke, because what kind of mother says that to her own daughter? But then she looked straight at me and said it again. Slowly, clearly. "You don't belong to that name anymore." And that's when I understood something. They weren't correcting me. They weren't helping me move on. They were erasing me, piece by piece. My name, my identity, my past. So I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because in that exact moment, I made a decision. If I didn't deserve that name, I wouldn't keep any of theirs. My name is Ava Reynolds. I'm 26 years old. This started when I was 7, in Charlotte, North Carolina. And what I did next, they never saw coming. Before I continue, if you've ever felt like you didn't belong in your own family, subscribe. And tell me in the comments, what name would you choose if you could start over? I was 7 when my parents divorced. At first my dad called, then less, then birthdays, then nothing. And my mom didn't just move on. She erased him, not just from the house, but from me. My mom changed after that. Not suddenly, but enough for me to feel it. She stopped saying my dad's name, stopped telling his stories, stopped acting like he had ever mattered. And slowly, I understood what she wanted, not just a new life. A year later, she remarried. His name was Daniel. And from the first day, he acted like the house belonged to him. Not just the house, everything inside it, including me. He didn't yell. He didn't hit. He controlled. Quietly. Completely. The first time it happened felt small. I wrote my full name on a school paper, Ava Reynolds. He looked at it, paused, and said, "You need to start using our name properly. Our name, not yours, not mine, our." And just like that, something personal became negotiable. At first, I thought it was temporary. Adjustment, blending families. That's what people call it, right? I thought maybe if I behaved well, if I didn't argue, if I just went along with it, everything would settle. Everything would feel normal again. But normal never came back. One day, my school records changed. Not by mistake, not by confusion, by request. My last name was officially altered, and I wasn't even told. I asked my mom about it. She said, "It's just easier this way." Easier for who? Not for me, because suddenly, I didn't know what my name was supposed to be. At school, one thing. At home, another. And neither one felt like mine. Family gatherings changed too. I noticed it slowly. The way they introduced me. Not by name, not properly. Just, "This is her daughter. From before." From before. Like I was a leftover piece of a life they didn't talk about anymore. I didn't say anything, not out loud, but something inside me started resisting. Quietly. Every time they corrected my name, I noticed. Every time they avoided it, I remembered. And slowly, that confusion turned into something else. Something sharper. Because names aren't just words. They're identity, history, belonging. And mine was being changed, without my permission, piece by piece. Until one day, there would be nothing left of it. And that's when I realized something important. This wasn't about blending a family. This was about replacing one. And I was the only one who could see it happening. The rules didn't come all at once. They came quietly, one by one. At dinner. We don't talk about your old house. In the car. Stop mentioning him like that. At school events. Just say your last name properly. Properly. That word kept coming back. Like my identity needed correction. Like something about me was wrong. One day, Daniel tested me. Not openly. Casually. We were filling out a form together. He slid the paper toward me and said, "Write your full name." I hesitated. Just for a second. And he noticed. Of course he did. "See?" he said. "That's the problem. Not confusion, not pressure. Just me. And if I wrote my real name, he would make me rewrite the entire page. Again and again. Until I got it right. From that day on, he corrected me every time. Not loudly, not aggressively. Worse. Consistently. "Ava, that's not how we write it. Ava, that's not your name anymore. Ava, you need to move on." Every correction was small, but together, they added up to something bigger. Then it moved beyond words. School IDs, report cards, permission slips. Each one slightly different. A letter missing, a version adjusted, a name that looked like mine, but didn't feel like mine. And no one explained it, because no one thought I needed an explanation. Family photos changed too. At first I didn't notice. Then I did. Pictures where I was slightly cut off. Frames where I stood just outside the center. Albums where my name wasn't written. Just family. And somehow, I wasn't fully included in that word. The introductions got worse. More casual. More careless. "This is Ava." Pause. No last name. Or, "This is Daniel's daughter." Not true. But no one corrected it. Not even my mom. Especially not her. There was one moment. I still believed it would change. A school award ceremony. I had worked hard. Stayed late. Practiced. Prepared. And I thought, maybe this time, they'll say my name right. Properly. Proudly. Like it mattered. When they called me up, I didn't move at first. Because for a second, I didn't recognize the name. It sounded close. Close enough that everyone else accepted it, but not close enough to be mine. The audience clapped. My parents smiled. And I stood there, feeling like I had just been introduced as someone else. I looked at my mom, just for a second, waiting, hoping that she would say something, correct it, fix it. But she didn't. She just kept smiling, like everything was fine. And that's when something broke. Quietly. Completely. That night, I stood in front of the mirror and said my name out loud, slowly, clearly, again and again, because I needed to hear it, needed to feel it, before it disappeared completely. And that's when I understood something. They weren't trying to include me in their family. They were trying to reshape me into it. And if I let them, there would be nothing left of who I was before. The dinner was supposed to be normal, family gathering, nothing special. My mom said, "Just come, it'll be nice." And for a second, I believed her, because part of me still wanted to believe that things could feel normal again, that maybe I had been overthinking everything. The house was full when we arrived. Laughter, voices overlapping, plates already set on the table. My sister was there. Relatives I hadn't seen in months. Everyone looked comfortable, familiar, like they all belonged to the same story, except me. It started small, like always. No seat saved for me, no one asking how I'd been, just a quick, "Oh hey," and then back to their conversations. I sat down quietly, like I always did, waiting to be included, like I always did. Dinner started. Stories were shared. Jokes repeated. Everyone laughing. And I noticed something again. They spoke about me, like I wasn't fully there. She's always been a little different. She takes things too seriously. Not mean, not aggressive, just dismissive. Then it happened again, casually. My aunt asked, "So what last name are you using now?" Laughter. Light. Careless. Like it was a joke. Like it didn't matter. I didn't answer immediately, because I didn't know which version they expected. I looked at my mom, just once, hoping she would step in, say something, clarify, protect. But she didn't. She just smiled, sipped her drink, let it continue. Then my stepdad spoke, laughing, relaxed. "She still uses that old name," and no one corrected him. Not even my mom. That silence said everything. Then he added, "Like it means something." The table reacted. Soft chuckles, nods, agreement. And in that moment, I wasn't a person, I was a punchline. Something shifted in my chest. Not loud, not explosive, just final. Because I had spent years adjusting, understanding, excusing, and in one sentence, they showed me exactly where I stood. I looked at my mom again, longer this time, not asking, not hoping, just watching, waiting to see if she would correct him, if she would say, "That's still her name," if she would choose me, just once. She didn't. Instead, she laughed softly, looked directly at me, and said, "You don't deserve that name anymore." Silence. Not from them, from me, because in that exact moment, everything became clear. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't adjustment. This wasn't a mistake. This was intentional. And that's when I made the decision. That would change everything. I didn't cry that night. Not in the car. Not in my room. Not even when everything went quiet. Because something had changed. Completely. For years. I reacted. I adjusted. I waited. But that night, I stopped reacting. And I started thinking. I didn't text my mom. I didn't call. I didn't explain how I felt. Because I already knew something important. People who erase you slowly don't suddenly understand you loudly. So I stayed silent. And for the first time, that silence felt like control. Instead of asking, "Why would they do this?" I asked something different, something stronger. What can I do about it? Because the truth was, they had already decided who I was allowed to be. The only question left was I going to accept it? That night, I opened my laptop, not to distract myself, not to escape, to search. One simple question: can you legally change your full name? I didn't expect much, but what I found changed everything. And when I checked the documents, I realized something worse. They hadn't just been suggesting a new name, they were already using it, legally. That was the first moment I understood something clearly. This wasn't symbolic anymore. It wasn't emotional. It was legal, real, documented. Which meant I wasn't imagining any of it. They had already started changing my identity on paper, without ever asking me. For years, they argued over my name, corrected it, changed it, minimized it, like it belonged to them. But it didn't. It never did. And that realization felt like breathing for the first time. At first, I thought about keeping my dad's name, holding on to it, protecting it. But then I stopped. Because that name came with absence, silence, distance. He hadn't fought for it either. And suddenly, it didn't feel like mine anymore. Not his, not theirs. just something I was still carrying. So I didn't rush. I didn't file anything immediately. I planned, quietly, carefully, researched everything, requirements, steps, timing, because this wasn't just paperwork, this was identity, and I wasn't going to treat it casually. And while they kept living their lives, thinking nothing had changed, I started building something they couldn't see. No arguments, no warnings, no signs, just a quiet process, moving forward, because the most powerful decisions aren't announced, they're executed. The form wasn't dramatic. No big moment, no emotional weight, just a document. Simple, clear. Petition for name change. I stared at the blank line for a while, not because I didn't know what to write, but because I finally could. For the first time in my life, no one was correcting me. I didn't rush the decision. I didn't pick something random. I chose something that meant something to me, not to my mom, not to my stepdad, not to my past. Something I built, piece by piece. A name that didn't carry control, only choice. When I signed it, it felt quiet, not powerful, not dramatic, just final. Because this wasn't rebellion, this wasn't revenge, this was correction. Something that should have always been mine. The courthouse was almost empty. No long lines, no big scenes, just a clerk behind a desk. She didn't ask questions. She didn't look surprised. She just stamped the paper and said, "You'll get a hearing date soon." That was it. Like changing your identity was just another routine process. Waiting wasn't hard. Not this time, because I wasn't waiting for permission anymore. I was waiting for confirmation, and that's a different feeling. Calmer, stronger, certain. Meanwhile, everything stayed the same at home. Same conversations, same tone, same subtle corrections. My stepdad still said things like, "You need to move on." My mom still avoided using my full name, and I let them. Because they didn't know. It was already gone. A few weeks later, I got invited to a formal event. Work-related. Important. The kind where names are announced, introduced, recognized. And that's when I saw it. The moment. Not planned, but perfect. The approval letter came 3 days later. Official, stamped, signed, legal. My new name, recognized, final. I read it twice, then once more. Not because I didn't understand it, but because I finally felt it. I didn't tell anyone. Not my mom, not my stepdad, not even my sister. Because this wasn't something they needed to prepare for. This was something they needed to hear. The same way I heard them. Publicly. Unexpectedly. Clearly. The day of the event, I got ready slowly, calm, focused, not nervous, because I wasn't walking into a confrontation. I was walking into a reveal, and the difference is, in a confrontation, you ask for answers. In a reveal, you already have them. The room was full, formal, organized, people dressed carefully, names printed on programs. Everything felt structured, predictable, the kind of place where identity matters, where names are announced clearly and remembered. I took my seat, calm, composed, no anxiety, no second thoughts, because this moment wasn't about proving anything to them. It was about confirming something to myself. My mom was there. So was my stepdad. They sat a few rows behind me, proud, relaxed, like they always were in public, like everything between us was normal, unbroken, unquestioned. They didn't know. Of course they didn't. Why would they? To them, I was still the same version, still carrying the same name, still tied to the identity they shaped, still someone they could define. Names started getting called, one by one. People walked up, smiled, shook hands. Applause filled the room. Routine, predictable, until they reached mine. There was a pause, a small one, the kind that no one notices, unless they're waiting for it. Then the speaker said my name, clear, confident, but not the name they expected. Not my father's, not my stepdad's. Something entirely different. Silence. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. I didn't turn around immediately. I didn't need to. I could feel it. Confusion. Shock. That sudden shift. When reality doesn't match expectation. I stood up, walked forward. Steady. No hesitation, no explanation, just presence. Because I didn't need to justify anything. This wasn't a reaction. This was a decision. When I finally glanced back, I saw it. My mom's expression. Not anger, not even disappointment. Just confusion. Because for the first time, she didn't recognize me through control. She had to see me, as I chose to be. After the event, she came to me, quiet, careful, and asked, "Why would you remove both names?" I looked at her, calm, clear, and said, "You spent years trying to change my name, so I chose one you could never touch." No anger, no raised voice, just truth. I didn't argue. I didn't explain further. I didn't wait for a response. Because closure doesn't always come from explanation. Sometimes, it comes from choosing yourself. They argued over what name I should carry, so I chose one that didn't belong to either of them. If you've ever felt like people tried to define you, tell me in the comments. And if you stayed till the end, subscribe. Because some stories aren't just told, they're understood.